This video is sponsored by Cohen Financial. More on them later.
Pacific Palisades is on fire. In today's episode, I'm going to review 563 Spoleto Drive in Pacific Palisades. It's got 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 7,713 square foot of living space. It's priced at $23 million. That puts it at $2,981 a foot. And it sits on a beautiful 21,000 square foot of flat land in Lower Riviera bordering the Rustic Canyon. Okay, if you're new to the channel, I first tell you 3 things I like about it, then 3 things I don't like about it, and then I suggest how I would have marketed it differently. And then I tell you guys how much Pacific Palisades has crashed from its peak and how much it's forecasted to crash farther down at the end of the video. Okay, let's get started. 3 things I really like about this property. Lot utilization. Look, you have a massive frontage, a huge backyard. Side setbacks are tight, but it's very, very private and very, very well hedged, and that's my number 3. Number 2, architectural style. Look, this is the California Mediterranean style. Now you're thinking, Arvin, California is on the Pacific Ocean, it's not on the Mediterranean. You're right, we've made it up. But listen, it's derived from the Italian Mediterranean style, revival look, very, very flat up front, not that many curves. This one has an office that sticks out to a little curve, but overall you have the courtyard and inspired by the Italian style. Now what I like about it is that it's timeless. It's aged, it's got that look, that's a classic look. It's not gonna go out of style, but more importantly, it's built in 2004, which means, you have great plumbing probably, you have good volumes and good ceiling heights. It's not a rebuild of an older home where you're gonna run into a lot of these problems. Now, my number 1 thing that I love about this property is the asking price, $23 million. Look, what's fascinating is that this property is generating $60,000 a month. That's 3.1% cap rate for an ultra luxury residential property in California. It's really good. And it's on a yearly lease, unfurnished. That's fantastic. I think it's priced really well. We're gonna talk about the Palisades prices at the end of the video. But before we do that, and I tell you 3 things I don't like about the property, let me tell you who I'd like to use when I get my own loans. I call Mark Cohen because he tells me right away if he has the best rate, and if he doesn't, he introduces me to someone that it does. I really appreciate that. This is his phone number. Give him a call and tell him Arvin sent you. Okay, 3 things I don't like about this property. Number 3, look, it's a long house, right? It's a bit narrow and it's a bit long. It's a bit room to room. And it's traditional in its interior design. Now, we don't have any pictures of the interior of the house. We'll talk about that for marketing segment. But you should know that from the layout that we have over here, you can see that it's room to room. I personally like older architectural styles exterior, but modern layouts, open layouts in the interior, right? And that's my number 3. Okay, the second thing I don't like about this property, and by the way, this could be a positive for you guys because this is Lower Riviera, closer to Rustic Canyon. You might argue, Arvin, this is so easy to get out of Palisades. You don't have to deal crossing 405. It's much, much easier. I get it. But if I was gonna live in Palisades, I would have much rather been closer to the village, and this is pretty far from the village. Now, the number 1 thing I don't like about this property, by the way, if you're wondering how I know this stuff, I'm a luxury and ultra luxury real estate agent here in Beverly Hills. I sell from Sherwood Country Club all the way to Studio City, and on the west side, I sell from Malibu all the way to Los Feliz. Here's my number. You can give me a call. I would love to help you. Okay, the number 1 thing I don't like about this property is the fact that it's north facing, right? I could maybe take east facing, west facing, but this is pretty much facing north, and you're not going to get that much sun for the majority of the day, and that is a negative. There's no sugarcoating it. Now, before I tell you guys how much property prices in Palisades has dropped and how much it's forecasted to drop, first, let me tell you how I would have marketed this property differently. First of all, I would not have used this picture as my primary thumbnail photo. I would have much rather used this photo. It shows the land better, the architecture stands out better. I like it a lot more. There's no shadows on the building. It just looks much cleaner. But if you notice, they haven't had any pictures of the interior of this house. Now, this is for good reasons, because this property has been rented for $60,000 a month. And they have tenants living there with their own furniture, so it's probably not staged, and it doesn't look like, it might not be presentable to the way the actual sellers would want the property to be presentable, right? Or maybe they're trying to protect the privacy of the tenants, right? But for whatever reason, it's actually working really well. Why? Because the location of this property is great. The architectural style is great. The land is great. You get even like hilltop views and mountain views, which is fantastic. So it creates a lot of curiosity, right? a lot of buyers for this price point would have to see this house in person, and it gives an opportunity to the sellers for the property to sell itself. Now, depending how well it looks right now with the tenants furniture in it, it could be a positive or a negative. But this is a strategy that you could also implement for your own property if you really, really believe in your own property, by creating a little bit of mystery around the property, by not showing every part of the property. You're going to get a lot more people coming to see the property, increasing the chance of them connecting with the property on an emotional level, buying it first, and hopefully overpaying for your property, right? Okay, let's take a look at how Palisades is weathering this crazy real estate storm. According to Zillow.com, home prices are only down 1.8% from their peak. And according to zipsmart.ai, they're only forecasted to drop by 1.5% in the next couple months and then shoot right back up by 3.8% by April. And now I have 4 or 5 buyers in Pacific Palisades, and I'm shocked how strong Pacific Palisades market has been. There's still bidding wars going on over here when we're seeing price reduction in a lot of other zip codes in Los Angeles, right? Now, let's look at some other metrics to verify this, right? The supply is only up 11%, which when you compare to the other neighborhoods, it's pretty damn good. The demand, however, is down by 61%, and that's concerning. Even though the forecast and the AI is telling us it's stabilizing, if this trend continues and the supply picks up and the demand stays at negative 66% or 61%, it might decline a little bit more. But overall, I'm really optimistic for Pacific Palisades from what I've seen on the ground and what the data from zipsmart.ai is showing. And one of the main reasons is a very high owner occupancy at 72%. That gives a lot of confidence. Why? Because that means there are not that many second home and vacation homes in Pacific Palisades. These are people who are actually living in their house, they're using their house, and they're not speculating on this housing market over here, right? Now, if you watch till this part, I ask you to like and subscribe because I would like to make ZipSmart available to you guys, to my channel members, but I don't have enough views or followers to have memberships under my YouTube channel. And the content of this video is purely my personal opinion. Real estate analysis is subjective in nature. So go see this property in person. It's a beautiful, beautiful property, and it could be the right one for you. Tell me in the comments below if you agree with my strategy or if you think there's other reasons why this property hasn't sold. I would love to hear that. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.